In this video, I want to show you how I do backups, and more specifically incremental backups. And the program I use for this, or the software I use for this, is BorgBackup. I will show you in this video how to create a BorgBackup repository, how to create backups, how to also view them, how to extract them again, and yeah, so I'll just give you an introduction to the software. So I originally wanted to wait for Borg 2, so version 2, but I don't know how long it's going to take to release that, so I thought I would just make a video and maybe I'll then do another one with the new version, because they have a few breaking changes and yeah, okay, but whatever. You should start doing backups today, because backups are important for your data. And yeah, that's what I'm going to show you. So I have this example directory, Borg example, and if I tree that here, I have two more directories, backup and data. So in backup is going to be my Borg backup, the repository, and the data is going to be my user example data, right? But before you do that, first you of course need to install BorgBackup. On Alpine you can just do it like this, do as apk add and then BorgBackup, and you might also want BorgBackup fuse. And we will need this to actually mount a backup repository and then be able to view the files. So yeah, you can install these. I mean there are more packages, at least on Alpine, for BorgBackup. So I think there are some for like auto completion, yeah, bash completion and fish completion, yeah. But yeah, I don't use these. I only use the fuse and the actual like software. All right. So how does this work? I have some notes prepared here, and I'm not gonna follow these exactly because I'm not gonna use encryption for this example, because then I have to like enter the password every time. You may want to use encryption. If your disk is encrypted already, I think it's fine. I normally nowadays typically don't use encryption for my backups, because I don't know, if my disk's encrypted, it's encrypted, right? So yeah, and if you encrypt the backup, it's gonna be, at least in my experience, it's a bit annoying to do like automatic backups, which I'm also gonna show you how to do with this kind of hacky solution, which is, as far as I know, it's not required for BorgBackup 2 when that gets released, but as it is right now, but I'll get to it later. Alright, so first we need to initialize the repository. So I'm gonna go into backup. So this is an empty directory, right? And I'm gonna do borg init, then -e equals none, because again, no encryption. If you want to use encryption, you have to pass. There are a few different encryption options. So the one I typically use is repo key. Then you enter your password, and then you can export the encryption key for, quote unquote paper, and then you can store it in your password store, what have you, or print it out on paper. So, but again, no encryption for this example. So borg init -e none, and then the dot for this directory. This will take a second. It will create a bunch of files, and this is now the Borg repository, you can say, right? All right. So now we want to we of course first have to create some data. So let's create a hello file, hello there, like that. And now we have some data. And what we can now do is we can call Borg create. And let me see. So I normally pass these flags here, but for the first example, I'm going to pass these, or, oh, well, why not? Sure. Let me pass these, or let me just copy this as is. So Borg create, and then we want to see the progress. We want to see stats at the end. I don't remember what this is for, to be honest. I think it's kind of a file cache in terms of time and size. Then we pass the actual repository, so the backup repository, which is in this backup directory. Then we need to pass an identifier, and this is also I think gonna be removed with Borg 2, so it creates identifiers automatically. But with this, as far as I know, you always have to pass some. So I just use like numbers which count up, right? And then the last argument is gonna be the data directory, which you actually want to back up. And now I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I mean it matters where you are when you create a backup, because it's gonna, so if I do it like this will actually have a data directory, if I'm not mistaken, inside the backup, right? If I were to now cd into this data directory and then call it with a dot, this would not have this extra data directory. So I guess we can, yeah, let's do it like that, because that's a bit cleaner, and that's how I typically do it for like system backups. So I typically go in my home directory and then just call it like this. So, and this will now of course not work because we need to adjust this path. So let's do this again. And now we see all these nice stats. So there's an archive fingerprint, there's a name which you have to specify, timestamp, number of files, duration, and then all these stats, right? So now we have a backup. What can we now actually do with this? Well, we can list it. Let's first list all our backups. So if we just call Borg list backup, we will see, well, it's one backup, the one we just created a second ago, right? And if we now specify this backup with the double colon and then the name, I think fingerprint works as well, it will show us a listing of the files inside the backup. Like, yeah, pretty simple. So now, this is a kind of incremental backup tool. So what this means is this does not copy your entire directory, and then this backup takes as much space as your actual data does, but it's incremental. So if we now go here and let's create another file, hello2, another hello, this will now, and let's call create again. And this time we need to change the name, I think, because it needs to be unique. So let's create another one. And as you see, this is now smaller, if that makes sense. So, because it's deduplicated. So it will not actually copy this first hello file we created into the second backup. Well, it's present in the second backup, but not because we copied it there again, but rather because that's how the software kind of does it. I hope you know what I mean, right? What I want to say is that we have now two backups, and in both those backups, there's this hello file, and this is unchanged in both those backups. So what BorgBackup does, it only stores it once, right? So it deduplicates the backups. I hope that makes sense. So if we now list again, not this, but just like that, you will see two backups with timestamps and fingerprints and whatnot. And if we now list the second one, we see that there are two files. Okay, who would have thought, right? And we can now mount this. If I just create a mount point directory real quick, we can now mount these backups like this. So mount backup, because this is our backup repository, this is our mount point. And if we now mount this, you will see some warning, yeah, sure. And then if I ls this mount point, you will see two directories, which correspond to our two backups. So one for the first one, which we named 1, and 2 for the second one, which we also named 2, right? So if I now ls mount point 1, we will see our hello file. And if I ls mount point 2, we will see our 2 files, right? So, and in both these, if I, can I do it like this? This hello file is the same in both these, but if we now change this, so let's edit this hello, hello there, let's do this in like caps, I don't know. And if we now create a new backup again and specify 3, it will tell us failed to acquire the log because we actually need to unmount this. So let's unmount it. And if we create another one now, it will work, and it's deduplicating these backups. So again, there isn't as much, and with this example it's kind of difficult to see because these sizes are so small, but if you actually run this on like a few like gigabytes or even a few hundred gigabytes, you will very quickly realize how great this actually is. So again, with these toy examples, it's kind of difficult to see, but if you run this in like a real life scenario, you will instantly notice like that this is the best method for doing backups. Like, you don't want to create a new copy of all the data every time, because most of the data you have is not going to change, right? So now let's mount this again, and we will of course see what has changed, right? So again, the warning, and then if we actually take a look at this, it's of course the file. So I mean, everything works as you would expect it. So there's nothing like out of the ordinary, I would say. So, and in my experience, I haven't really experienced anything where it was like, oh yeah, I need to remember to do this. I need to remember this quirk in the software that it does it like in a weird way. No, not at all. So BorgBackup has been like pretty intuitive in that sense. So again, this is a pretty good piece of software if I haven't mentioned that already. So let's unmount this again, and now I kind of want to show you my kind of hacky script here, because I don't want to change this name I specify every time, and I don't really care about this name anyways, because the backups have timestamps, and that's in my opinion that's the important thing. So we can kind of do like a little shell scripting here to list the Borg backups, then get the latest name, and then add 1 to that, so to increment it. And if we do this, it will previously unknown. Because I'm calling this with doas for some reason. So let's call this again without doas, and we also have to adjust this path again. So now we have a next variable defined here, and it is now 4, because I mean, it's pretty simple what this does, right? So Borg list just lists out all the backups, then tail dash n1 gets the last line, so this line right here, and the set command removes everything after the first space. So so if I run this, it will output 3, and then we just add 1 to that in this kind of shell syntax arithmetic expression, and then echo the thing, and yeah. So this is what this does. And then we can just specify this next variable in our create statement. So we can do it like that. And this is typically how I do like automatic backups. So, and as you see now, because nothing has changed from the last backup, it actually tells us that this archive uses 0 bytes because there's no new data. So yeah, I think this is this shows it better than the examples before. So with this, you can actually see, like, no matter how many backups you create now, it will not take up any space. Well, it will take up a little bit space because it of course has to like store the fingerprint and store the timestamp and store this backup as a single backup, right? So this size increases of the entire repository, but it doesn't store any additional user data, is what I want to say. So yeah, all right. So now we could mount this again and kind of look at the files again. But this kind of what you often want to do is, or what you sometimes want to do, especially if you break something, is you want to extract your data. So let's create a new directory extract, and to now extract data, we can call Borg extract. Then we have to specify the Borg repository, and then we also can specify, I don't think we need to specify that, a output directory. And I don't think this will work like this, right? Because we need to specify an archive, and so the name of an archive. So we can now specify, for example, the latest one we created, and this will now put the latest version of these files in this directory. So if we cat out hello, it's this hello file, we will get hello there with like caps, right? So let's remove this though, and let's restore the first backup. We only have this hello file, and now there's hello there without caps. So yeah, again, everything's pretty intuitive, I would say. And as you can see, there are lots of flags which you can use, and there's lots of stuff. Like BorgBackup is a really complete piece of software, I found. So whatever you need to do, you probably can. So for example, you can exclude files, you can search for patterns and whatnot. You can do a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. Again, this is what I use for backups and for incremental backups, that is. So, and yeah, I think that's it. I mean, if you just call Borg, you will get the let me list that. You will get the full list of options. So you can also run benchmarks, and like there's also like a configuration, but I've never used that. So yeah, I don't know. You can also delete archives, of course. You can also find diffs, create a tarball. I mean, pretty much all you want to do with backups you can with with BorgBackup. So yeah, it's pretty great. It's a pretty great piece of software, and I recommend you to check it out. It's probably also in your package repositories, whatever distribution you're using. Again, I showed you how to install it on Alpine, but it's probably just as easy on whatever you're using. So yeah, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to show in this video. And yeah, have a nice day.